Scottie Scheffler had history in his hands, but what happened next shocked the golf world. The world number one stood on the first tee at Shinnecock Hills on Sunday, June 21st, 2026. His 30th birthday, Father's Day, a six-shot deficit to Wyndham Clark, and the weight of history pressing down on his shoulders. A victory would have made him just the seventh player ever to complete the career Grand Slam. The crowd was on his side. The storybook ending was right there. And then it slipped away. But it wasn't the loss that stunned everyone. It was what happened next that left the golf world absolutely speechless. The 2026 U.S. Open at Shinnecock Hills was supposed to be Scottie Scheffler's coronation. The four-time major champion had already won 2 Masters, a PGA Championship, and the Open Championship. He had completed 3 legs of the career Grand Slam. All that stood between him and immortality was the U.S. Open, the one major that had always eluded him. The stage could not have been more perfect. Shinnecock Hills, one of the most storied courses in American golf, a venue that had hosted 5 previous U.S. Opens and produced legends like Raymond Floyd, Curtis Strange, and Brooks Koepka. And the timing was almost too perfect to believe. The final round would fall on Father's Day. It would also be Scheffler's 30th birthday. The script was already written. The only question was whether Scheffler would follow it. But here's the thing about Scottie Scheffler. He has never been one to embrace the hype. In his pre-tournament press conference, he was asked about the Grand Slam. His answer was classic Scheffler. Would it be a dream to win the U.S. Open? Of course. But at the end of the day, the Grand Slam has never been a motivating factor for me. I always just wanted to be the best version of myself. And that got me this far. He went even further. I think sometimes that's a little bit of the fallacy in our sport, is like, if I win the U.S. Open, then I'm going to be satisfied. I won all the tournaments and my career is essentially over. And I've accomplished everything I could want to accomplish. But I think the goalposts are always just moved further and further. Those words were refreshingly honest, but they also raised a question. Was Scheffler truly not motivated by history? Or was he just trying to trick his own brain into thinking this was just another tournament? The answer, as the week unfolded, was complicated. Scheffler opened with a 72, a lackluster start that left him at 2 over par and tied for 75th place. He wasn't playing badly, but he wasn't playing like the world number one either. Then came Friday. Scheffler fired a 68, his first under par round at a U.S. Open in 11 rounds. He hit 12 of 14 fairways and 15 greens in regulation. He was patient. He was calm. He was classic Scheffler. And he was back in contention. I did a good job of keeping a pretty clean card today, he said. That's always nice when you're coming around a U.S. Open golf course, especially one as challenging as this. The momentum continued on Saturday. Despite bogeys on his first 2 holes, Scheffler shot a 69, 1 under, which was one of exactly 2 under par rounds in the entire field. He shot a 32 on the back 9, best of the field. He chipped in from 65 feet on the 14th for a birdie. The crowd erupted. He roared. He fist-pumped. He was alive. I've been battling hard for a few days, and I did a good job of keeping myself in the tournament, Scheffler said. I'll need a really nice round tomorrow if I'm going to try and catch Wyndham. But the missed opportunities were already piling up. A 7-foot par putt on 17 that just wouldn't drop. A 4-foot birdie putt on 18 that curled agonizingly wide. Scheffler finished the day at 1 under, 6 shots behind Clark, who had grinded out an even par 70. The final round was set. Scheffler would play in the final group with Clark. The stage was set for a historic showdown, and the golf world couldn't wait. The final round of the 2026 U.S. Open began with the weight of history on Scottie Scheffler's shoulders. He was 6 shots behind Wyndham Clark. A comeback of that magnitude had never happened in U.S. Open history. But Scheffler had done the impossible before. He had won majors. He had dominated fields, and the crowd at Shinnecock was on his side. The atmosphere was electric. Fans chanted his name. They cheered every fairway he hit. They groaned at every shot that missed. The New York crowd, known for its intensity, had chosen its hero, and it was not the man leading the tournament. The crowd following Scheffler kept pulling for each of his shots to hit fairways and greens while begging for Clark to end up in bunkers. There were chants about his birthday, too. Fans wanted the comeback. They wanted the history. But Scheffler's struggles started on the first hole. His second shot rolled off the green. His putt to save par missed. It was a sign of things to come. His second shot out of the bunker on the seventh hole had hit the green and, in classic Shinnecock style, did a U-turn, rolling back into the sand. He moved back to 1 under with a birdie on the 10th, but he finished his round with a bogey and 4 consecutive pars. He finished with a 71, 1 over for the round, and even par for the tournament. He tied for 4th place, 4 shots behind Clark, who held off a charging Sam Burns to win his second U.S. Open. "I felt like I did enough to have a really good round," Scheffler said. "It was just, man, I felt like I hit a lot of good putts that were really close to going in. Just wasn't able to kind of hold those." He elaborated, "I have belief that if Wyndham shot even par today, I believe that I could catch him. It's just a matter of executing the shots. I was close, but not where it needed to be." The career Grand Slam would have to wait. But it wasn't the loss that stunned the golf world. It was what happened next. Scheffler didn't sulk. He didn't make excuses. He went back to the range, and then to the putting green, where you could see him attempting a replica of the putt he missed on 18. He was already working on fixing what had gone wrong. That resilience, that refusal to give up, is what makes Scottie Scheffler who he is. But the story was just beginning, because the golf world was about to learn something even more shocking about Scheffler's character. The moment the final putt dropped, something remarkable happened. Scottie Scheffler didn't just walk off the green. He and his caddy, Ted Scott, showed their class once Clark's second U.S. Open victory was confirmed. And Clark noticed. Speaking to the media ahead of the Travelers Championship, Clark paid tribute to Scott. Yeah, it was really nice of him to say the nice things that he did. He did go out of his way, especially because they were there. They were the eyewitnesses for all the stuff, and obviously everyone's rooting for him. But they also heard and saw everything that was happening, Clark said. Clark revealed what Scott had said to him. It was just really nice that he was like, "Hey, that was really impressive, and, that was difficult, but it was fun to watch, and you handled it with class." So it was really nice of him. The gesture was unexpected. Scott didn't have to say anything. He could have just walked off the green and gone to the scorer's tent. But he went out of his way to congratulate the man who had just beaten his player. The class was unmistakable, and it reflected the character of the man he works for. But the most shocking moment came from Scheffler himself. He didn't complain about the crowd that was rooting against Clark. He didn't make excuses about the wind or the course. He didn't blame his putter or his caddy. Instead, he spoke about Clark's performance. I think it shows a lot about Wyndham, how he handled not only this golf course but the crowd today as well, and I think is a well-deserving champion. The words were gracious. They were classy. But they also raised a question. Why was the world number 1 defending the man who just beat him? Why was he calling out the crowd that was cheering for him? The answer, as fans would soon discover, was more complicated than it seemed. Scheffler had been in this position before. He knew what it was like to be on the receiving end of a hostile crowd. He knew what it was like to have the entire gallery rooting against you. And he knew that the way you handle that adversity says everything about your character. Clark had handled it with class, and Scheffler wanted to make sure everyone knew it. The fan treatment of Wyndham Clark at Shinnecock Hills was not subtle. Every time Clark hit a shot, the crowd groaned. Every time he missed a putt, they cheered. The heckling was constant. Clark heard the cheers for Scheffler. He heard the roars every time the world number 1 made a move. He heard the boos, too. I was kind of making jokes about it with my caddy, where if we heard someone cheer for me, I'd go, "Oh, there's one person that likes me," Clark said. So we would kind of make jokes and make it maybe a little lighthearted. But it's tough, man. I've played now a President's Cup and Ryder Cup on foreign soil, and it kind of had that atmosphere a little bit. Scheffler noticed it all, and he didn't like it. He understood that fans were rooting for him. He appreciated the support, but he also saw the line being crossed. At his post-round press conference, Scheffler spoke about the crowd. The crowd was tough today. New Yorkers, they're tough people. There was a good turnout from the fans. You like seeing the fans cheer for you. I think sometimes it can get a little too much when balls are kind of going off greens and you start hearing cheers. That felt a bit much to me. He went further. At the end of the day, I can't control fan behavior. Being in the arena is not for everybody. There's been crowds that have been for me in my career. There's been crowds that have been significantly against me in my career. Scheffler knows what it's like to be on the receiving end of a hostile crowd. He recalled a tournament in Ireland where the fans were clearly supporting their home hero, Rory McIlroy. Crowds can be tough, he said, but he also knows what it's like to be in a hostile environment. The Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black, where Rory McIlroy was subjected to relentless abuse, was fresh in everyone's memory. And Scheffler didn't want to see that happen again. He didn't want Clark to have to endure that kind of treatment. So he spoke up, not to defend himself, but to defend his opponent. Being in the arena is not for everybody, Scheffler said. It shows a lot about Wyndham, how he handled not only this golf course, but the crowd today as well, and is a well-deserving champion. The golf world reacted immediately. Some praised Scheffler for his class. Others accused him of being too soft. A few wondered if he had hurt his own chances by being too nice. The debate was fierce, but Scheffler didn't care. He had said what he believed, and that was all that mattered. The question that has divided the golf world is simple. Was Scottie Scheffler's defense of Wyndham Clark a sign of class, or was it a sign of weakness? The answer depends on who you ask. Some fans saw Scheffler's words as the ultimate display of sportsmanship. He had just lost a major championship on his 30th birthday. He had just watched his Grand Slam hopes disappear. And instead of complaining, he was defending the man who beat him. Others saw it differently. They argued that Scheffler was too passive, too nice, too willing to accept defeat. They pointed to his pre-tournament comments about the Grand Slam not being a motivating factor. They pointed to his post-round comments about the crowd. And they asked the question that has haunted Scheffler's career. Does he have the killer instinct to be the best? The statistics are complicated. Scheffler has won 4 majors. He has been the world number 1 for nearly 200 consecutive weeks. He has 20 PGA Tour wins. By any measure, he is one of the greatest players of his generation. But he has also struggled to win the U.S. Open. He has finished 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. He has been close, but he has never closed the deal. This year was his best chance. The course suited him. The crowd was on his side. The storybook ending was right there. And yet, he couldn't get it done. Some fans blame his putter. Others blame his mental approach. A few blame his lack of edge. Scheffler, for his part, has addressed the issue head-on. If I finish 2nd this week, it's almost like, hey, you failed in your first chance to win the career Grand Slam. Is finishing 2nd a failure? He said before the tournament. Yeah, it can feel that way, but sometimes when you look at a wider view of the sport and where your game's at, 2nd is not always that bad, but man, does it frickin' hurt at the same time. It does hurt, and the hurt is visible, but so is the class. And in an era of sports where athletes are often criticized for being too robotic, too scripted, too boring, Scottie Scheffler's honesty is refreshing. He is not pretending to be something he's not. He's not trying to be the villain. He's just trying to be the best version of himself. And sometimes that means being gracious in defeat. The legacy of Scottie Scheffler's U.S. Open bid is still being written. The career Grand Slam will have to wait another year. But the 2026 U.S. Open will be remembered for more than just the result. It will be remembered for the way Scheffler handled defeat. With grace, with class, with a determination that suggests he will be back. Scheffler's comment about being in the arena has become one of the defining moments of his career. It was a reminder that professional sports are about more than just winning and losing. They are about character. They are about how you treat your opponents. They are about the example you set for the next generation. It's not for everybody, Scheffler said of the pressure and the scrutiny. But he didn't say it with arrogance. He said it with empathy. He was acknowledging that the pressure of competing at the highest level is immense. And he was acknowledging that Clark had handled it better than anyone else that week. The golf world is divided on Scheffler. Some see a player who is too nice to win the biggest tournaments. Others see a champion who is secure enough in his own abilities to give credit where it's due. Scheffler himself doesn't seem to care about the debate. He knows who he is, and he knows what he wants to achieve. The Open Championship at Royal Birkdale is just around the corner. The U.S. Open will come around again next year, and Scheffler will be ready, because that is what champions do. They keep fighting, they keep believing, and they never give up. The question on everyone's mind is simple. Will Scottie Scheffler ever win the U.S. Open? The answer is probably yes. He is only 30 years old. He has plenty of time, and he has shown that he can compete on the biggest stages. The Grand Slam is not a matter of if. It is a matter of when. And when it happens, the golf world will be watching. For more coverage in golf, subscribe and hit the notification bell.